Netroots is going on right now. That's the largest collection of online progressives in the country, no question about that. They're in Vegas, and I'm dying to be there, but we had a little bit of a baby situation, so we're in LA. Okay, we've had some good times in Vegas back in the day, but we do have someone there. Sam Seder is joining us from Las Vegas, Nevada, at the Netroots Nation conference. How are you, Sam?
I'm doing well, Cenk. You're missed here. I think I remember back. You know, you and I, of course, were at the first one. I guess it was 5 years ago when it was yearly codes.
Yeah, that's right. That's the famous story of when we went and stayed at the Circus, and there were boogers on the wall.
There you go.
Where are they holding it this time?
This time it's at the Rio, and it's a beautiful hotel, and you know the convention is now known as Netroots Nation, and it has gotten bigger, and you know it's changed through the years. That first year that we went, so much of it was about people meeting other people they just knew by nickname online, and now it's become into a really well-run, highly organized series of days of seminars and of panels and really interesting stuff.
So, do you know, Sam, about how many people are there, or no?
I think it's somewhere around somewhere between 2,000 and 3,000 people.
I'm sorry, I was just going to say, what do you think of the media coverage so far? Because I know one of the things that's an issue for me is whenever CPAC does anything, the media is all over it. CPAC. But, you know, whether it's Campaign for America's Future or Netroots, it gets some coverage, but I'm not sure the same level. But maybe I'm reading it wrong. How do you feel there about media coverage?
Well, you know, it's hard for me to get a sense of what the media coverage is because I'm actually, you know, in the inside looking out. But I think in the main, you're absolutely right. You know, this convention is far better attended than, let's say, you know, like Tea Party rallies or whatnot, but you see a lot less attention. I think it probably hit its peak of coverage a couple of years ago. But, you know, I think part of that is simply because of the nature of the beast here is that these people are genuinely outside the establishment. You know, Tea Partiers, CPAC, they're backed by, you know, a lot of AstroTurf dollars. And this convention is really about people who were otherwise uncredentialed and otherwise unaffiliated with institutions, having a say and influencing the debate and the nature of the progressive movement. And so in some ways, I think, you know, this is a threat to a lot of the mainstream media, and they are, I think, not terribly interested in validating it. And, you know, frankly, I'm not sure that the people here really feel it's too important to get that validation.
Yeah, that's interesting because, you know, one of the coverages today was from NBC's Mark Murray. And he says, look, people at the convention are complaining that Obama is not as progressive as they wanted him to be when they voted for him. I certainly have that complaint. But Mark Murray says, no, what we're not getting is that the country is not progressive. He says, but here's something to consider. It's the country, not the system, that's stacked against liberals and progressives. And then he cites polls saying that the country is only... the last poll in 2008 says 25% liberal and 36% conservative. Now, I've got a lot of issues with that, but what do you think of that, Sam?
Well, I mean, of course. I mean, it's one thing about how you self-identify because the right-wing media has had 30 years to demonize that word liberal. But when you go down issue by issue, it's a totally different story. I mean, one of the panels I sat in today was about Social Security, and I'm sure you've talked about there's going to be an upcoming assault on Social Security over the next 6 to 12 months. And one statistic that really jumped out at me that they showed was that across the board, even 75% of Tea Partiers do not want a Social Security cut. Now, this is something that the leadership of the conservative movement, this is a program that they call is out-and-out socialism. But 75% of Tea Partiers do not want Social Security cut in any way. And so, it doesn't matter at that point how they're self-identifying. The issue is how do they line up when it comes to specific issues. And in that instance, a lot more of them are liberal than they realize. And,
I have a million stats on that, and I might do that in the next segment because I want everybody to know all that. But on the specific issue that you mentioned, Social Security, Bloomberg just did a poll, and they asked people, look, if we're going to cut the deficit, what are the things you'd most like to cut? What are the things you'd least like to cut? Social Security came in dead last. We do not, under any circumstances, want to cut. Over 70% of the country saying it should be off the table. It should not even be considered.
Now, Cenk, imagine if you also told those respondents, incidentally, if you cut Social Security, it will not in any way impact the deficit. Because the fact of the matter is Social Security is completely self-sufficient and self-funded. It will not in any way, cutting Social Security will not impact the deficit. The only way you will impact the deficit is if you steal money from Social Security. If you steal money that was collected specifically for Social Security and you pay off debts because you maybe gave tax cuts to the rich, but Social Security in and of itself does not contribute to the deficit 1 cent. And I can guarantee you that very few of those respondents, even though they said Social Security is the last thing we want you to cut, don't even know that fact.
Right. And by the way, number one on the list, ironically, also had to do with Social Security. They said raise the cap on the rich for paying more into Social Security. Okay. So, but yet we have a so-called progressive president who has put together a deficit commission that is Pete Peterson's wet dream. That looks like it's going to cut Social Security and Medicare and not touch the other things to actually reduce the deficit. So obviously that's a source of great frustration for me, for you. But my question is, what's the sense you get at the convention, right? Because once you're there, you really get a sense of the room in a lot of ways. Because I know when I write about this stuff on Daily Kos, for example, half the people get all over me and they think, oh, you're an Obama basher and you're anti-Democrat, etc. Is that the mood, or is the mood, no, this guy's not going in the right direction?
Well, I can tell you in this panel, this is a self-selected group of people who are interested in Social Security. There were a lot of people who were basically asking the panelists, why is Obama doing this? And, of course, the panelists can't really answer that question. I think, it will become clearer and clearer. And I think to the extent that people are Social Security is on their radar. Now you got to remember, we beat back George Bush's attempt to cut Social Security in 2005. So if you're a progressive right now, the last thing you're expecting is Barack Obama to cut Social Security. But he gave us a clue, and I must admit that at the time I didn't see it this way. But if you go back to his speeches in the lead-up to the Iowa primaries, he started talking about Social Security being in crisis.
Right. He did. And, but that's the thing about Obama, he gives you a lot of both. He's kind of like the Bible. He gives you a little bit of an eye for an eye, and he gives you a little bit of turn the other cheek, and then you read whatever you want into him. All right, now, Sam got cut off there for a second. We're going to get him back on the line, and we just want to ask him a little bit more about the panels there and who's speaking. Again, since we're not there to get a sense of it, and Sam's also going to do interviews for us. So, Sam, I finished up that Social Security point. Just, I wanted to ask you, what are some of the other panels for people that don't know anything about this? Who's speaking? What's happening at the conference?
Well, you've got panels like that talk about Social Security. You have panels that are about different policies. One, for instance, this afternoon was talking about California's problems, with their deficit. Another one teaches bloggers how to write a good email campaign. Some are about creating social communities around politics and film. I mean, there's just a wide range of types of panels. Some are more informative. Some are more about how to organize. And there's some great keynote speakers. Tonight, Brian Schweitzer, Governor of Montana, is going to be here. Tomorrow, Van Jones will be speaking. Saturday, Nancy Pelosi, Harry Reid, and Al Franken. So that's going to be a great day to hear some people speak. So it's a wide range of things that are, and then of course, there's parties at night so that you get a chance to meet people that you've been working with from afar.
Sam, I got to give you a warning. If you guys have Van Jones speaking there, you're going to be on Glenn Beck tonight. So you might want to reconsider.
Well, then in that case, we'll shut the whole place down, of course. Glenn Beck completely drives the agenda here. We've learned our lesson.
All right, Sam, I got to ask you, because it's been in the news so much, of course. Shirley Sherrod, I mean, give me a sense of what you thought of that debacle.
Well, actually, I did my this week's That's Bull Crap about this. One, I mean, look, Andrew Breitbart is just an unmitigated liar. I mean, that's what he is. And you're hearing a lot of talk from the corporate establishment media that this is a problem with the internet. This is a problem with blogs. No, this is a problem with right-wing liars. Because no matter how they deliver these lies, whether it's the Swift voters, for truth, or whether this is the Acorn videos, the rest of the media has to basically stop allowing these people to have access, stop picking up these stories. And then, as far as the Obama administration is concerned, I mean, that's just unbelievable. It's just unbelievable that they are that panicked and that cowed by the notion of Glenn Beck going on the air with something that they won't even take the time to do their own investigation like that. I mean, it's just absurd.
Sam, yesterday I was joking around. We're talking to Sam Seder. Of course, he was on Air America. We were on Air America for a short period of time. Can you imagine back in those days if the Bush administration was like, we got to fire Alberto Gonzalez, otherwise we're going to be on Air America tonight?
The Bush administration, I mean, never mind going to be on Air America tonight. We've got some cabinet members who may be indicted for war crimes in Europe. But we're not going to back down. You know what I mean? And it's the idea that they would allow Glenn Beck to have that much say over what they do, and just to react so knee-jerk is really. It's really problematic. The one thing, because, I feel the same way you do about Obama in terms of, disappointed where he is as a progressive. And a lot of people say, well, you shouldn't be disappointed. It was fairly obvious that he wasn't an ideologue going in. The one thing that he definitively did promise us during the campaign that he has not delivered upon is the politics. This is a guy who got up and said, the reason why this isn't going to be 1994 is because this time you guys got me. And this is a guy who said, I got this. And I don't know what changed, but they certainly are not delivering on the level of politics that they did during the campaign. And, it's not just the Shirley Sherrod thing. It's also this ridiculous Black Panthers thing. The Obama administration should be, instead of avoiding or being kowtowed by this stuff, they should be using this as leverage against the right-wing noise machine, because it's easy pickings.
Yeah, I wrote about that today. I mean, this would have been a gold mine for them if they hadn't panicked. And instead, they took a golden opportunity to say, look at how biased Fox News is, and the right-wing media, and Andrew Breitbart, and all those guys, and how the regular media should not listen to them because they're not news. And they took that golden opportunity, and they flushed it down the toilet, and they turned it into a massive loss. And that goes towards Sam's point, which is, look, they said, oh, on policy, maybe they're not going to be as progressive, but don't worry, we're political geniuses. At least we're going to win. But that's not what they've delivered. They don't look like political geniuses at all. They look quite bumbling. The last thing on this, Sam, is I'm not beginning to think maybe it was David Plouffe all along that had figured out that you should actually be progressive to win elections. You know, because he's the one part of the puzzle that's missing. Or maybe it's Rahm Emanuel who came in and poisoned the well. I don't know. But it's certainly part of the D.C. bubble. And Obama seems to be deeply enmeshed in it. And I don't know what's going to get him out.
Yeah, I got to agree with you. I mean, you know, I think there are times where I think that it's possible there are people within the administration who might welcome the loss of the Senate or the House, because then it decreases the expectations on what they can deliver. But you know, my biggest problem with Obama is less on what they have been able to deliver in terms of legislation, and I'm more disappointed that they have been so poor in trying to make a broader case for a progressive ideology. And maybe, you know, that's just not who Obama is, but you know, I also remember him during the campaign talking about Ronald Reagan and saying that he admired how Ronald Reagan impacted, you know, politics in this country. And the one thing that Ronald Reagan did, and I think you can speak to this, is that, you know, for people in our generation, it turned a lot of them into conservatives. And you know, the Tucker Carlsons of the world. I went to, when I was in college, there was a lot of people like that running around, and that was because of Ronald Reagan. And Obama, I think, has really missed an opportunity to impact the 20 and 30-year-olds who, you know, would retain a certain brand loyalty, if you would, going through the years. And that, I think, is a real big missed opportunity, because, look, things got so messed up in the past 8 years with George Bush that I never had unreasonable expectations, I think, as to what could be achieved in a short period of time. But I don't see him laying the groundwork for a case for changes 5 or 10 years down the line.
Yeah, no, that is definitely the, among all the problems, I agree with you, the primary problem. All right, Sam Seder's at Netroots, and he's actually going to join us tomorrow night as well here on the program, and he's going to do some interviews that I believe we're going to put up at youtube.com/TYT interviews. All right?
Great.
Thank you so much,
Jack.
Sam.
We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Yep, talk to you tomorrow. Have some fun.
Bye-bye.